The other day, Israel's Foreign Minister Gidon Sa'ar was interviewed on Israeli cable TV talking about what's going on right now in Syria, and he dropped an absolute bombshell. Take a look.
It's practically a pilgrimage to Damascus. Everyone gives legitimacy. The Americans even go further and make him clean. They canceled the $10 million reward. Why is this happening? What did he achieve that they let him off? You are right. The international community is quick to legitimize Al-Julani with all kinds of reasons that can be analyzed. To analyze one of them, it is very important, for example, for the Europeans, for the European countries, and also for other countries in the region. The one valued Turkey in returning refugees to Syria, and so to return refugees, you need to legitimize the country and say everything is fine, refugees can be returned to it. This is a very important point. You see the millions of refugees in Germany and Austria and in France. Are they returning home to Syria? Will they be deported back? First of all, I'll tell you what they want and the legal conditions for them to be able to do this. This is a component, and it was also explicitly stated to me. I speak with European foreign ministers. It was explicitly stated to me as their consideration. Therefore, they align with America.
See, the Syrian civil war started 13 years ago. In those 13 years, more than half of the Syrian population has been displaced. There are millions and millions of Syrian refugees scattered across Europe, scattered across various countries. And these countries want to get rid of them. You can only deport a refugee from a war zone back to their home country if that country is no longer a war zone. You can't deport refugees back to a country if it's still in conflict, if it's not stable, and if the leader of that country is a wanted international terrorist. One of the questions Berdugo asked him was why the United States removed the $10 million bounty that they had on Al-Julani's head. Okay, before this whole thing, up until a few weeks ago, there was a $10 million bounty on the head of Al-Julani because, again, he's a ISIS, Al-Qaeda terrorist. So he said the only way you can legally deport Syrian refugees back to Syria is if you can look at Syria and declare that it has a stable government that's peaceful and that's not illegitimate. So they're granting legitimacy to Al-Julani. They're pretending that everything is stabilizing over there in order to set the predicate to deport Syrian refugees back into Syria. And then Sa'ar added at the end of that clip, he said that this is not just his assumption, this isn't just some analysis, but that this is what he's being told in conversations with European foreign ministers. So let's understand what's happening here. European nations are trying to use the fall of the Assad regime and the takeover by this jihadist terrorist organization as a pretext to claim that everything's okay in Syria so that they can deport millions of Syrians back to this country who've been displaced there after 13 years of civil war. Now, this is not going to happen. I'm telling you right now, my prediction, this is not going to happen for a very simple reason. In 13 years of civil war in Syria, the country has been devastated. As I mentioned, more than half of Syria's population has been displaced during that time. Industries have been destroyed. There's no jobs to go back to. The infrastructure has been destroyed. These Syrian refugees who've made their homes now, some of them for more than a decade in European countries, are not about to go back to Syria just because these European countries want to send them there. And if European countries think that they're going to round up all these Syrian refugees living in their countries and forcibly deport them back to Syria, the new Syria under Al-Julani's rule, there's going to be blood in the streets. And just picture that this would be going on around the same time that in the United States, the Trump administration is getting ready for mass deportations of illegal aliens who are in their country. This is going to become a global firestorm. The most important takeaway from this whole thing, folks, is that the European leaders who are granting legitimacy to Al-Julani and claiming that he's a good guy that we can work with don't even believe it themselves. They're only doing it because they want to get rid of all the Syrians who are in their countries, who are causing them domestic problems, because the biggest political issue in Europe right now is illegal immigration, is what to do about all these illegals who come from, these migrants who come from Muslim countries, who come from the Middle East, who are causing all kinds of domestic unrest in these European countries. That's why the German government recently fell. That's why the French government recently fell. That's the cause of so much of the unrest in Europe is all about the immigration issue. And these European leaders are now looking for a way out, and they can't deport people from other countries back to their countries. They can't, after encouraging this mass migration for the last who knows how long, these European leaders can't just turn around and tell all these migrants, oh, I'm sorry, it's bad for us politically, you have to go home now. But with the Syrians, because Syria was in an active civil war for the last 13 years, and now they see an opening where they can claim that the war is over, at least with the Syrian migrants, they have this new pretext, this new excuse that they can claim they have a reason why they're sending them back. So they're trying to use what's happening in Syria as an excuse to solve their mass migration from the Middle East problem and deport Syrians back to their homeland. Folks, it is not going to work. And if they try it, it is going to cause blood in the streets of Europe.